Welcome back to another great episode of the Adam Talks podcast.
I started out as a wrestler, 10 years Olympic style, so I started when I was about 9 or so.
We said we don't want Bruce Wayne to be old and that's his reason for retiring. He has to have a reason to not be doing this.
I knew I'd always wanted to do it. I never saw myself at a desk job, and anytime I thought of something else, it always brought me back to wrestling.
Man, I don't like fancy pad work. I like realistic pad work. Am I formed? Am I punching correctly? Am I balanced? Like, a lot of them guys will hold pads way outside their faces, and it's just, I don't believe in that type of training, man. Like,
for a couple promotions, I wrestled under a mask, and we don't talk about those days. Because those days were fun and really embarrassing.
It is the first annual Berryville Film Festival. I'm the founder and festival director for it. So it's exciting to bring something to a small town, something brand new.
I think anything you do in wrestling has to have meaning to it. No matter, like, facial expressions, the high-flying moves, all that stuff like that.
And we're back with another awesome episode right now. We are talking to a guy who works and I believe created, in part, Original Geek Comics. Head writer Nick Helms. How's it going, man?
Pretty good, yeah. I'm the actual sole owner of Original Geek, but yeah, I'm the full on person at Original Geek. So I am the Original Geek, I guess you could say.
You are the Original Geek. I am very sorry about
it's okay. It's okay.
Getting that incorrectly.
No, you're fine. I won't hold it against you this time, but next time I will definitely hold.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. How you been, man?
Pretty good. How about yourself? Doing good?
Oh, man, I've been living it up, doing this thing, almost 50 episodes at this point, so I'm very excited to have you on as one of the final episodes for Season 2. Very excited. Where did the love for comic books come from, man?
Man, with comic books, it actually got started back in the early 90s. So there was this show, I don't know if you ever heard of a character named Batman or not, but there was a show called Batman the Animated Series. Very small, independent thing, not very well known. But Batman the Animated Series really got me in, hooked. I was born in 87, so, in the early 90s, I was just a wee young lad. And it sunk its claws in me, and I was just obsessed with it, and I was like, this stuff is great. This is what I'm into, and that's where I really drew a love of first Batman and then superheroes and stuff. I found out there was a comic book shop down the street from where we lived at the time. I went in there, got my first comic books and stuff, and I mean, really, that's. Whenever I test to everybody, like, they're like, where did they get started? It was that, and then Spider-Man the Animated Series. But those two shows really, they created me of who I am today, and what the original geek that I am. And the reason why we call ourselves Original Geek and why all that it became a thing is because I was that, like 5 years old when that stuff came out, and I was really into it, 5, then 7 or whatever. And back then at school, we're probably close to the same age, so you probably remember this. If you wore geeky shirts, you were kind of, a geek, and geeks were different, geeks were the outcast. But now, with the MCU, everybody wants to be a geek now, and it's just the cool thing. But we were originally geeks, so that's where the name comes in. And so, but yeah, man,
it's cool. It's cool to be nerdy, man. It's cool to be a nerd these days, man. And it's awesome, It's awesome. I love that it's acceptable now to watch a DC movie, a Marvel movie, or even playing Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that. It's all acceptable. Everyone's like, yes, yeah. I do that. It's like, it was so taboo back then, which was really weird,
For sure.
When did you start coming up with ideas or concepts for characters?
Let's see. Really, I think I wrote like a small book when I was like 10 or 11 or something like that. I think I have it somewhere, and where my sister did all the drawings and stuff, because I can't draw stick figures, dude. If I didn't have artists, I'd be lost. And I wrote a small book. I think it was like 50 something pages, and it was called The Saurian 10. and it was like the 10. It was 10 people, which involved, it was about me, my sisters, my two twin sisters, and then like 7 of my cousins, and that we all had these like swords, that each of them had an elemental power, and then we fought like bad guys that were basically versions of, like, the villains from Power Rangers or something like that. That's basically what we were fighting. We didn't have suits or anything, but in there. But it's basically, I made some rip off Power Rangers thing, and that's the first thing I remember creating. But really, when I got serious into it was when I first went to college. I graduated in '05. Skipped a year, then I went to college and started college in '06, and then I started working for the newspaper at school. And then I did that for a whole year, and then the next year they started an entertainment section at the newspaper, and I was the first entertainment editor there. And I met a guy who worked for me there, and he was a screenwriter. He wrote screenplays and stuff, and I had only wrote newspaper articles. And then he taught me how to write screenplays. He gave me this book called Lou Hunter's Screenwriting 434. Lou Hunter is a screenwriter, and at that time, that was the book that they used at UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles, the film program there. He was a teacher there, and he wrote the book, and that was the book that they used. And so he gave me a copy of that, and that's basically how I learned about screenplays, and I wrote my first screenplay, which was called Vengeance, which I'm sure we're about to get into pretty soon, because that's what my comic is. So, or one of my I guess my longest running comic now, since I have several of them.
Yeah, man. Vengeance. I did not know what to expect of it. You got the cover with this cyborg head, half human head. And then, like, long hair, no hair. Guy has one part, like, one bionic arm, and then, like, it's like half and half, and it's crazy. I'm like, what is this even? And I started to get into it. I was like, wow, this is a crazy story, man. This is completely different than anything. It's like almost Batman Punisher-esque in like a combination sort of thing, man.
Yeah.
Explain to me how you came up with that, man.
Really, I just, to give it a little bit about Vengeance, for those that haven't read it. Vengeance was a college baseball player and investigative journalist, who lives in the town of Metron. I guess it should be city of Metron, which is kind of ran by this gang called the Nightmare Gang. And he writes a newspaper article that gets some of the Nightmare Gang thrown in jail. Well, they have a secret boss, lurking in the shadows, and he gets really mad. And so he has the character, whose name is Nick Burrow, and we can touch on the name Nick later on. But he decides to have him killed. Well, luckily, Nick was friends with a guy who was a scientist who happened to be developing cybernetic enhancements. And so they use those cybernetic enhancements to bring Nick back to life. And now he's as you can see, if you're watching the video of it, or if there is video, I don't really remember if you have video or just audio. Okay, cool. I didn't know if I'm just pointing. It's just for you.
Just randomly pointing.
Just for you. Pointing. But like you described, the robotic side. So now he feels like he's a monster, because he can no longer. He had such a promising human life. He was, they had just won the College World Series in the first book. He was a great investigative journalist. He could have went either way with his career, and he had a great love of his girlfriend. And just everything gets changed whenever he dies and comes back to life, and it's a lot to deal with, because one, he wants revenge or vengeance, which is really simple how I came up with this name. But at the same time, what I like about the story is that it really touches, and in the first 2 issues you don't really get it because it's that setup, in the first 2 issues. But then once you read the third one, you can kind of see where it starts to it gets into a lot of mental health issues there, because it's like, and that was something, because I had a lot of, obviously I've said previously that Batman was a huge influence on me, and in the comics, you said Punisher. You probably could take inspiration from Spawn in a way. A lot of '90s type style stuff because that's basically where I got my start. Was in those '90s, so that '90s image type thing, and that's kind of where I started with on the story of Vengeance. And I wanted, and there's a lot of, you could even say some cyborg in there as well, since he is like a cybernetic cyborg from DC. But I wanted it really to touch on does it what's it going to be for him, as a person, like having to do this. Yeah, we're going to get the superhero stuff and we'll get cool fights and all that stuff. And you see that all the time, but they don't focus on what it does for someone's mental health. And I'm a big proponent of mental health as well. I have anxiety and I have bipolar depression. And so mental health is a huge thing for me. And so I really wanted to tell a story that took concepts from other things that you've seen or read or something like that, and also tell it in a different way. How can I tell it different that no one else has done, or at least nothing that I've read personally? Because there's so many ideas out there, Adam. There's so many ideas, and there's not really there's really hard to find an original story because there's really only like 11 stories. I believe it's 11 is the correct number. There's only like 11 stories. They're just all told in different ways, but it's basically the concept's the same. And so I was like, what can I do to make myself stand out? And so I really wanted to focus on the emotional toll that he was going to go through. And so that's really what was my idea when I started. Well, I first wrote it as a movie script, and now we're at comics and stuff. But that was really what I wanted to focus on. And I think that you read the first 3 issues. I think in that 3rd issue, you really got to see that. And I really even get further into it in the 4th issue more. And that's basically kind of where I want to go with it, further.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. How much? All right. So here's one thing that I think a lot of people miss out on. I think that you nailed on the head, not only in what you were just saying, but I think that a character having an actual story, an actual background, not just being somebody, they need to feel like a real person. I've heard this from other comic book artists or comic book creators in the past, but also as a content creator, as a creative person that does audio dramas and this and that, the character has to feel real. You have to feel like you could see that person, walk up to them, and experience whatever life is with them. And I think you did that great with there. How was that for you, that creative side of things, making this Vengeance person into a real person within that world? How was that for you?
That was very important to me. That was something I think anyone can tell a story, but at the same time, you got to have characters, and your characters it's hard to relate. A lot of people, I love DC, okay? I love DC. Huge fan. But at the same time, a lot of DC's characters are very hard to relate to because they're besides, even with Batman's, like a rich billionaire, but they're mostly all gods amongst men, right? And it's really hard to relate to them. And there's also, Marvel does a really great job of characters, even though I do like DC stories better. Marvel does a great job of characters, so it was kind of like, how can I blend those two together and because indie comics, it's hard, it's hard. There's so many people out there. If you look on Kickstarter right now, you can look that up and see that tons of people are putting out books right now. Tons of people. I got a book right now. We're recording this in October, of course. And we just got done funding. It ends in October for Vengeance 4, but it's funded already. And, we're one of thousands of books on there, right? That's just right now in this moment. And, you got to do something to stick out, because doing indie comics and trying to get, those sold, it's not sunshine and rainbows, and it's work. It's work. And I knew that I wanted the characters to have something so that way people could latch on to that, so that maybe people would feel something when they read the books and relate to those characters. That way they would continue to come back. And, because I felt like I need, you kind of need something. You need something when you're doing indie comics. You can have the best art in the world, but like I said, there's thousands of other people that have great art too, and great stories and stuff, and so what can you do? So, hitting those emotions, I thought would be, while telling a great story, or at least, I feel like it's a great story, hitting those emotional beats was definitely a huge importance to me when writing.
Yeah. Whenever it was a big emotional moment, like the one that you alluded to a little bit without giving too much away, whenever, whenever that big emotional moment happens, it's like a big gut punch, man. I could feel it when I was reading it, and the funny parts in there, the little here and there funny parts with the side characters, you can relate to those because you see those people everywhere, every day. You work with them, whatever it may be, And I think it's awesome that you made it to where it feels like you could be in that world. This could be the world we're in right now, Do you ever take inspiration from real life when adding into a story, or is it all just creative process, man? Apart from Nick.
Well, there's a lot of, real world influences, especially in Vengeance. Because you got to think Vengeance is the first thing that I originally wrote it as a movie. And that was the first thing I had ever really, because we're not going to count the thing I did whenever I was a kid. So let's just count, from adult.
All right.
That's the first thing that's the first thing that I really wrote, and, creating characters and stuff. And I didn't really know per se of like, I was first starting out because I've written a lot of things since then. And it was just like, what do I do? So I just took a bunch of people's names and likenesses and characters of people that I had known at that time, which was 2007 when I originally wrote this, and put them all into the story. And just basically, it's like a juxtaposition of people that were in my life at that current time. And most of those people are not in my life now, but, it's kind of like a thing, main character's name is Nick. Burrow was the last name of my best friend. Her last name was Burrow. Now she's married, but in school. I played baseball in high school. I was in journalism when I started college. When I wrote this, I was a journalism major. So, which was also huge into Superman as well. So it kind of, and then it's kind of where you get the girl come in, and then she's a journalist too. Then you're getting a Lois Lane, and then you get some Lex Luthor come in with the other characters, and and it's just like, okay, well, but then at the same time, I kind of think I also kind of split my personality in different ways with like his best friend Chris, that smart aleck, funny guy. That's kind of like me also in a way. So it's just basically I kind of took different things and put them into different people in the thing, and I don't do that as much anymore now with my characters, but I kind of still, not as people that I know, but I'm a very big people watcher. I see how people interact and how they are, and I try to figure out what will bet. I take inspiration from just normal day people sometimes. If they do something interesting or say something interesting, I'm like, that's an interesting way this person is. That would be a great character by taking some inspiration. Maybe they're, good things, bad flaws, just whatever. And I think that when doing that, it may sound cheap to some people, but the same thing is why would I come up with someone completely, original? And if you hear kids yelling in the background, I'm sorry. I don't know where the sound is there. But you know how it goes, right? But
Right.
I think that, yeah, I think having people, based maybe slightly off of other people is good, because then you as a person, as the reader, can find somebody that you relate to as a person in the books, which I think is good, because then you're like, oh, I want to read this. This person reminds me of me. And then you can see then your imagination could be running off, and you're like, I can see myself in this world. Look, I'm fighting next to Vengeance, and or just I'm helping him out. I'm so cool, or something like that, and I think that's what we all want in the stories that we consume in one way or another, and so. That's
Definitely,
just me
man.
though. I don't know if everybody feels the same way, but that's the way I feel, and it's been doing pretty good for me so far. So,
I mean, I'd say so. I mean, like I said, I loved reading Vengeance. I want to be able to read the fourth one at some point. Hopefully, that'd be really cool, man. Because I thought it was awesome how it left off at the third, and I was like, what's going to happen next? And I need to check it out whenever it comes. You
yeah,
know.
the fourth one's crazy. So it's I actually, like I said, we just funded it. We're changing artist on there. It's a double issue. It
Ooh.
introduces a new character who's going to end up spinning off to his own. There's just a lot of things, a lot of things. So I'm excited for it.
I'm excited for it, man. Like I said, I got to check it out. I did see on Kickstarter where you're like allowing people to read a couple panels out of it or something like that, giving like that little black and white free preview or whatever it is. And I read that and I was like, "Yep, I'm gonna have to get it whenever I'm able to." Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't say no to that, man. It's one of those things where you're a fisherman for comic lovers, in my opinion, and you know how to hook them, and you got it going, man. You're reeling them in every day. You're doing great.
Thank you.
Um,
Appreciate it.
yeah, man. Yeah. As far as Vengeance goes, how far off or how different is it than your original screenplay as far as what we've been able to see right now?
Well, the original screenplay wrote as a movie, beginning, middle, end, um, and we've seen most of that screenplay, a good chunk of it, maybe like half ish or so, just in the three issues. Um, but then the story is I wrote that as a movie and I was going to film it myself. I casted a bunch of people, um, and like had someone that was going to do special effects and stuff. And then I just didn't feel right about it because it was a story that I was like, if I'm going to tell this story, like it was really, vengeance is, my heart, and poured my heart and soul into this story. And I was like, if I'm going to tell it, I want to tell it right. And I just didn't feel like it was the great time for that. And so I kind of put it away. But then I wrote then I come up with a second movie idea, and then I came up with a third movie idea, and then I was like, well, now I could write it more, and I just kept coming up in my head because that's everything I do is in my head. I don't do much as far when it comes to writing and stuff. I don't come up. I'm not sitting there. Excuse me. I'm not sitting there at the computer typing, trying to come up with what happens next. It's all built in my head, like blueprints to a house, sort of, but they're stuck in my head. And so I just kept building and adding onto his mythology to where then I was like, I'm going to make it as a web series because I got so much crap now and then I started writing them as a web series, and then I had like first season like 20 episodes written. So and which was going to be which would be a longer version of the first movie. And then I was going to do a second season and third season, but I didn't write all those scripts. But I had, I even have this concept, I guess, which would be an Excel table of what happens in the first series, the second series, and the third series, and had each character's name, and like, this is where they are in the first one, this is where they're at in the second one, this is where in the third one, or they could have died or something like this, and blah blah blah. This is like all this stuff. Yeah, and so I have a lot more that I could tell now. So it's just basically I'm telling the first movie in a way, like, I don't know how many issues that it will be until the technical end of the original script, because I'm trying to take that first season of a show that I would have done, which I was going to also film myself, and then decided not to do it because, once again, in my head I was like, and I had it all cast and everything, did table reads and all kinds of stuff, but in my head I was like, gotta have something good. So yeah, I really want to tell the story of the first season that I came up with, and being able to do that is the goal, but also condensing it down because I took out some characters and stuff like that because I can't take like 22 years to tell a story. So it's just there's a lot of condensing.
I mean, you could.
Like I could, but I don't want to get. I mean, I could keep doing the books for 22 years, and maybe I will. But the original first story, I don't want to take that long. But I still also want to tell a lot from that first season of would be a show. So the fourth issue is actually would have been like 3 to 6 issues originally that I condensed down to just one double issue. So, because just when you take out a bunch of characters and then you condense down, it's like, oh, maybe I don't need to draw this out, don't need to draw this out as much. And telling in comic form is a little bit different than telling it on a screen. So, I kind of condensed it down, but also took the idea. So, like the new artist that we have, I'd have Eric. Bullet. It's called Vengeance 4. Is called Vengeance versus Bullet Shibito, and so I took the character that he wanted to introduce and kind of wove them into what would have been the second arc of the series, and then kind of condensed it down to make it one issue. So I don't know how many more it'll be until I tell that main story. Maybe 7 or 8 total. So maybe I'm about halfway there probably. I just want to be able to go without spoiling. Obviously, but the original movie ended with the main villain and Vengeance having a fight, and then it happened, and then afterwards that's how it ended. So I kind of need to get to that point so that way I can tell other stories past that.
Right on, man. Right on. Would you say that comic books is a better medium for vengeance than a series, a visual, like a show or a movie or something like that? Or would you say that you would still at some point like to see it done in maybe audio drama or visual video medium, animation, something like that?
I would love, to tell the story, the full story, in some other medium. But the reason why I eventually ended up doing a comic, started it up, a few years ago, when we put out Vengeance 1, was because I had that story in my head for so long, 10 or 12 years or however it was long. I can't remember when, it's been about 4 years. So it was about 13 years or so that it's set in my head, and I was just tired of it sitting there, And I was like, I gotta tell this story. I'm tired. I gotta get it out of my head because there was just so much. I'm telling you, binder in here, man. That I could show you a binder of just stack of crap for this story, and it's like I got to tell this, and I wanted to. And then the reason why I did it is comics because it was just the most accessible thing, and I've always, been into comics and read comics and collect comics and stuff, and I was like, this even makes sense. He's a superhero comics. That's where you got your inspiration from, Nick. So just do it. That's the easiest thing is to just write and then find an artist. You don't have to deal with all this actors and filming and editing and all that stuff. It's just a much faster thing, and only having to deal with like one person doing the art and stuff. It's just so much easier. And I think comics play well to story, but I do have a lot that I want to do more. I would love to do it as something else, but we will, that would, we'll see. I'm not going to do it myself as far as like a web series or something like that. I wouldn't do a web series myself, mainly because I don't want to cheapen it. But if one day I license it to someone and they do it, that's totally cool. That would be cool. But I don't want to do it myself. As far as audio dramas, though, if I was thinking of that, we are technically working on an audio drama right now that's set in the same universe as Vengeance. And then there will be another one after that will be set in the same universe. So, I mean, Vengeance, may play a part in that, in the audio drama eventually to just further his story and stuff like that. But I'd love to see a visual. I'd love to see animated something or, a web series or something one day. But, who knows? That That would be cool, though. I think it would play well into long form storytelling. I wouldn't want to do a movie. I think there's just too much because then I feel like it's less than what I'm already doing with comics. So I'd love something long form, though.
That'd be really cool, man. And you're on the right trajectory for it. I think it's
Hmm.
gonna. I think you'll be able to get it done at some point in the next what 5, 10 years, something like that, maybe even less, depending.
Yeah, I would say about that. Hopefully
Yeah,
something to come
Jeff.
up. Just the only thing we gotta just keep doing is just keep trying. Telling the stories that we've been doing. Comics. 5 books out already that I've put out myself. Or about to put out my fifth book. Thinking in my head. Yep. Sixth book. Just got funded. So just keep going a bunch of cons and stuff like that, and who knows? Who knows who you'll meet at cons?
Right.
So I mean, we met at a con. So who
Fuck
knows? Who
on.
one day, because yeah, SpotCon, Hot Springs, Arkansas. We'll see you next year.
Yes.
There. Uh,
Um,
but who knows where you'll see somebody. So
I completely agree with that, man. I've gotten not only to talk to you, but I've talked to the creator of Gen Comics, another indie comic, Mr. Fish Comics. Talked to both of those. Now I'm talking to you with Original Geek Comic. I got the chance to talk to a voice actor, like a professional voice actor. He's been on like Transformers cartoons and Ninja Turtles and Pokemon and all kinds of stuff on the show. So you never know who you're gonna meet, man.
yeah,
The other thing that I wanted to ask you about, you said this one was, I would say vengeance is something that came from like really like something personal to you. Like you said, it's something that's years in the making. The other one was the eighth day, if I'm not incorrect. Am I right?
you're right. You're right.
Tell us about it, man.
That is. Yeah, so the eighth day actually started. You remember whenever I said that I was doing Vengeance as a web series? Well,
Hmm.
I come up with this episode idea where Vengeance got sucked into this other universe and had to go through this story there before he came back of an alternate future where he makes a mistake and basically evil wins over good. And so it entirely post-apocalyptic future, possible future, like Days of Future Past from X-Men or something like that. So he basically goes in and comes out and he's like, oh, I can't have that happen. So that's how I come up with it. But then I was like, okay, well, I'm also, so I had it and it was episode, called 8. And then I was like, okay, well, let me take that and then come up with a movie script for it called The Eighth Day, and it would have the full story, but it wouldn't have vengeance when it come into it. It would just basically that universe of how that came to be, but just set in the future, and wouldn't have vengeance. So that's how basically I come with it, and it's basically a story where this guy called the Father, villain, kills all the superheroes, and then 40 years later, he runs all the world. Everybody is, it's a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Everybody's in a town called Haven, in like a walled-in city. So he follows a lot of tropes there. And so I come up with that idea, which would follow this boy named Apex, who would wake up one day with a power that he would use to take on the Father, to restore hope to the universe. And so coming up with that idea is, I wrote that had it written as a movie. Apparently that's what I do when I come up with ideas, is I write them as movies, and then later on they become comics. That was actually written, like a year or so after Vengeance movie was written, and so whenever it comes an idea for the next comic, it's like, what's the next comic you're gonna do? After I had a couple of issues of Vengeance in the can, I was like, I want to tell the Eighth Day story, and when I noticed that, recently, a couple years ago, I started getting into manga a lot and watching anime and stuff like that. It's not something that I ever got into until a couple years ago. And then once I did, I realized that the story is very manga-like. had a lot of manga tropes to it. And then I met Eric Cushing, who's the artist for Eighth Day, who's also now the artist for Vengeance issue 4. He met him and realized that we were both similar interests, and he wanted to work with me. And I realized that we were both very heavily into manga. And so I come up with it, I said, let's do this Eighth Day. We do it as a comic. And his art style is very manga-like anyway, an anime style in his art. And so it just fit, honestly. And I really feel like the Eighth Day was our partnership is really was such a natural coming together of two people. And I had the basic idea of what Eighth Day was, and then Eric and me, by talking out, made it more in depth and filled in some gaps. So while I give Eric a co-creator credit on that, like I tell people that it was created by both of us, mainly because there was a lot of gaps that he helped me fill in, and even building, going with the story going forward, we talk a lot. We talk a lot about it and where we want it to go. And that's basically where it came from. Was a spin-off of Vengeance, and Vengeance is actually in the story because it's still that post-apocalyptic future. And so basically, once we did that comic and come up with that idea, I basically had to draw out a multiversal map. So then I drew on paper, very crudely, circles, and drew a circle, and it was like, this is our normal universe, and then it had little things coming off of it that had Vengeance, and then the rip-offs, which is the audio drama we're doing, and then another one idea that I was going to do a comic before the Eighth Day that the artist, she ended up backing out, and I'm going to end up doing that as an audio drama. And then, then I had the Eighth Day universe, which is just an alternate future of another superhero universe. And then I had other projects that I wanted to do, so I had to put these all in universes. So now it's just like I have this huge map of multiverse thing. If you follow us on Instagram at Original Geek, one of the pin posts has like a slideshow of all the universes that where we have projects being developed in. So it's a fun idea, though, and a lot of post-apocalyptic. It's so hard to say that. I don't know why. It's a very hot thing, right now, and it has been for several years, and which I did kind of come up with the idea before it got really, really popular. Before Hunger Games and all that stuff had come out. Like I said, it was just back in wherever it was. Right before the boom happened, and but I think it plays well together, the idea and the art together. And so I'll be honest with you, I love the Eighth Day more. I love it more than Vengeance, and I don't know why. I guess just that I've become now so into manga and anime and stuff. I think it's just, while I still love Vengeance, and it's a big part of me, I think that because probably in my head, Vengeance uses so many things that I took from other things, and Eighth Day was such a completely original, like nobody in there is from anybody. It was just all just original characters, but still using, way that people, making them characters that you can emotionally tie to. But, it's just it's just so different to me. And if I could, I would, if I didn't have a job and didn't have a life, like a whole other thing, and if Eric didn't have a job and stuff like that, and we could just do comics and stuff, we'd be doing Eighth Day, like, it'd be coming out every other week. Like, it'd be constant. If we had that ability. If someone was like, hey guys, here's $100,000 or whatever, make stuff for the whole entire year, don't work, then we'd be putting Eighth Day out more all the time. And then Vengeance would probably do, bi-monthly or something like that. But Eighth Day, if I could put it out every week or every other week, I would. I love it. I love the story, and I love where we can go with it. So, and because I think it's also so different, as well. So,
Definitely, man. It's very different, you know. And I was actually going to say something before you said, like, because I didn't know what you would, I didn't know what you would want to be said about the comics with, like, for
Mm-hmm.
people who haven't read them. You know, you want them to experience that stuff. But then you brought Vengeance. You said Vengeance like makes an appearance in it, and that whole thing, that whole section where you're reading through those pages and seeing those moments. I'm like, there's this. Who is that? Who is that? Who is this? There's Vengeance. That's awesome. He's got.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You know, and the moments were just like very vivid. It was very original, man. I
Thank
mean,
you.
that's the best word I could use for it is original because, you know, you like you said, there's tropes to everything, right? And
Mm-hmm.
of course, there's tropes to everything, and that you're going to have some of those in your story. But the way you deliver them, it was very original, and I really thoroughly
Thank you.
enjoyed the way you deliver different things from your comics, man.
Yeah, man. That was like that's a big selling point. And Vengeance now, whenever I first did it, I never said that Vengeance was in it. I never said it. Until after the book came out and people started reading it, and just, I didn't even say to the people, besides me and Eric, the other people involved in Original Geek, I didn't even tell them Vengeance was in it.
Oh
So it
wow!
was just it was just a secret between me and I just said it was a post-apocalyptic universe. I never said anything else. I didn't say it was an alternate to our superhero universe. I never said anything. I kept that all to myself. And so, like, there's still secrets. There is a drive folder that has like tons of stuff between me and Eric, like screenshots of conversations and Word documents where we've come up with stuff that the rest of the team doesn't even know about. That's even in the future of the Eighth Day, because it is such a well kept secret that we've already built this entire world in, and it's just, I didn't want to say anything at first, and so I would sit there, I just gave the book to someone, and then they were just like, "There's Vengeance!" It was like a huge deal, and so now, but once after it came out, it was a few weeks. Then I kind of was like, Vengeance is in the Eighth Day. If you haven't read the Eighth Day, it's a post-apocalyptic version of alternate future of our superhero universe. Because then I feel like it's a selling point. But yeah, if you don't know, and I don't always say it, but I kind of say it to people that like, I don't say it to like somebody like it, just meeting you or something like that. I'm not going to tell you that Vengeance is in it or something like that. But if you had read Vengeance and you came in as a fan that had already read Vengeance, I'd be like, hey man, Vengeance makes an appearance in this. I feel like it, because it's like a different artist and stuff. You're like, maybe, I don't know, like, I know, I feel like that's a selling point to people that are already invested in Vengeance. But I don't use it as a selling point to new people. But I mean, definitely, like, once you hear that Vengeance is in it, and if you're a fan of Vengeance, I feel like it's like, well, now I have to read the book. And so, but I just like how, but you were talking on the flashback scene, and that scene, I'm gonna tell you this. It's a fun tidbit for you. It's not something that I've told a lot of people. I think I've said it before on podcasts, but it's not something that we go around saying. When I wrote the script for Eighth Day, if you notice, it's a lot bigger. It's actually a double issue. It's a lot bigger than the Vengeance issues because it is also a double issue. It wasn't going to be a double issue. It wasn't going to be a double issue. I didn't write it as a double issue. I wrote it as a 22-page script. Well, that flashback that you saw, I wrote it, and it was about 2.5, 3 pages long.
Wow.
It was a little bit longer than that, wasn't it? Because all of those things that happen, we can't spoil that. We can't spoil it. All right, obviously, we're not going to spoil it. But the stuff that happened in there, I wrote them as like 1-2 panels. Each thing that you saw that was 3 or 4 pages, 3 pages or so. And Eric decided as he was doing the art, this needs more.
Yeah.
So he just drew, and that's where we ended up being like 13, 14 pages for a pass. That was 2 pages.
Wow.
So that's how and And then there were some pages that he was like, "Oh, this is one page. It looks better as a double page spread." Like the opening page. It was, I think it was originally just one, and then he made his two. So there was some that he added more panels to make it, because it's just like, as an artist, I don't know. No, I'm not an artist, so when I'm writing, I'm still learning. Like, so if my hand's right here, and then you see me move my hand, right? But when I write, it's like my hand's here, and then all of a sudden my hand's right up here, and then you're just like, how does it go from here to here? And so sometimes he has to, make panels here that make sense to go from this panel to this panel. We need a panel right here. So there's a lot of times that he added to that, and that's how it ended up becoming a double issue, was because of Eric. Like I said, that's why he gets a co-creator credit, because that selling point, that flashback, look, if I just tell people, whenever I show people Eighth Day, I'm like, check out this is a flashback, and then I just show the first page and second page, and I'm like, see? And they're like, oh my goodness, this looks so cool. Yes, I know it looks cool. I know it does. And I know. And so basically, I said that I wrote it as 2 pages or whatever, 2 or 3 pages, and I only had like 2 or 3 pages of like the lettering. I had to figure out a way to split that and to add to it with what Eric did. So when you go through it, every page has stuff on it, right? All that stuff that mentions, like, this is what happened and this is who, is in it and what's happening in this moment. All that stuff was done when I was doing this, when I was putting the book together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It wasn't even in the script. I added a bunch of stuff because of what he added. I had to come up with new lettering, so a lot of that was just done on the fly. So Eighth Day's a beast of a different. It's way different than Vengeance and stuff. Vengeance was just very cut and paste, like it was just like, normal paint by the numbers. It was like, this is the script. This is what the person drew. These are the lettering that I put. I might change a couple words that I sounded better once I started typing it, but that's about it. I mean, it's very, cut and dry. But Eighth Day is way different, and I guess that's why I love it, man. I guess.
And I have one more thing to say about Eighth Day before we start to get everything, start wrapping up a little bit on our conversation. The one other thing I wanted to say was, I don't remember if at the beginning of it says alternate universe or not. My brain was automatically like, is this in the future of of Vengeance? Like, is this what's going to happen way off? This is crazy.
So it says, the only thing that it says is U870 at the top on the first page, which, if you didn't, it is an alternate universe, but it doesn't really say that per se. So it does leave that air of mystery, especially because if you don't know, but you knew who Vengeance was, and if I didn't tell you that he was in it, you would probably think that. And I kind of like to leave it up to people. Imagine, maybe it is alternate. Maybe it is the universe. Who knows? So, I like the little mystery. Could be. Who knows? I don't know.
Could be a whole thing like the nightmare sequence in Zack Snyder's Justice League, or Batman versus Superman from Zack Snyder, where it shows a big post-apocalyptic future and Darkseid's taking over everything. Could be. Who knows?
Yeah, but yeah, I like having that idea out there, and eventually we will see where the universe splits. We're eventually going to see that. So all I gotta say is stay tuned. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Definitely will, man. Definitely will. Man, I thank you so much for coming on and just giving your knowledge on everything, man, and how you came up with these characters and your thoughts on comic books and everything in general, man, because it's awesome being able to learn from somebody who's doing something in the medium that I personally love so much. I love comic books, man. I got a bunch of them. My uncle, whenever he passed away, gave me books, man. I have an omnibus right over there of Batman stuff, the early days of Batman.
Awesome.
over here. It's like this thick, man. It's huge, you know.
Yeah.
And I just love comic books. And like you, I'm a DC guy. So whenever I read Vengeance, obviously parallels to Batman were right out in front. And I was like, I can get behind this character so much because I love that kind of story. I love dark. I love intense, gritty stories. And this had I said Punisher, Batman, you said Spawn, but in the brutality, I could also see Daredevil, the style of Daredevil in it a little bit, you know? Not exactly what happened with Daredevil, obviously, but, you know, the brutality, the brutal side of it, a lot of blood, it was just intense, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And then the eighth day was just an adventure, man. That's what I thought when I read it. It was an adventure. And I was like, what is going to happen with this kid? And then whatever happens, happens, you know? And it's just an awesome read, man. The images, the script, everything. So, normally, the way, I just wanted to say first, thank you so much once again for coming on. Normally, the way we end the show is with gratefulness, because I'm a super grateful guy. I want to show gratitude to anybody that happens to be on the show or anything like that. Plus, I got a whole bunch of other things that I'm grateful for. Before, what I usually do is I'll say three things I'm grateful for, and I'll give my guests that same opportunity afterwards. For me, it usually doesn't change at all. The first thing is my support system. You know, I'm so thankful for people that support me, whether it's audio dramas, whether it's when I was trying to do film, art, anything. Podcast, wrestling, whatever it is that I'm doing. I want to thank them so much for being able to do that, to support me. And the second thing is, well, you, the guests that come on the show, because, man, if I'm being honest, Nick, you didn't have to come on here, dude. You didn't have to come on here at all. I'm just some guy that likes talking to people. So I appreciate it so much when anybody willingly chooses to come on my show, man. It means the world to me when that happens. The third thing is kind of a 2-for-1. It's my health, because I'm steadily getting better. My physical health is steadily getting better. My mental health is always being worked on through therapy and everything else, but also the good Lord above, because without God, nothing's possible, and with Him, literally anything and everything is possible. So, Nick Helms, in this moment, man, what are three things you're grateful for?
The first thing I'm thankful for is for my wife and kids, who are very supportive in what I do. I have 5 kids, and so it's a lot there, and they're very supportive of the whole comic thing that I do and going to these cons and stuff like that. And so I'm very supportive of them. I'm also very supportive of my fans, or the people that read the books. The one thing, the reason why we do this is not for the money, because there's no money in comics. Especially if you're doing indie comics, it's not a money making venture. We do this because we have stories that we want to tell, and we have a love and passion for it. And the fact that people will accept that, and they will, donate their money to help this happen, or even just, pay $5 for a book, and be able to read that, it means a lot. And, the one thing that I said before Vengeance 1 came out was, as long as one person likes the book and tells me they like the book, that's it. That's worth all the time that my brain has been working and putting into the book. And then third is my team, man. My team is something else. The OG collective, as we call ourselves. They're a great group of guys. I gushed a lot on Eric throughout the process, but my marketing manager Jared, Luke, who is writing his own comic now, and then Sean, who's a cover artist for me. He he's great. He's been with me the whole time, and I'm very appreciative of all of them guys, because they motivate me and push me a lot every single day to do what we're doing, and they're been a lot of changes throughout the time of Original Geek, and we've had to make some decisions of what we're doing and why we're doing it. And I think not everybody at first was on this train of the same ideas, and some people have left and gotten off. But it was more like a money over passion issue, and the team that I have in place, the remaining people, we all have one goal, and that is telling art and in the state of Arkansas, and showcasing the talents that this state has. And so they're great. They're great. But all three things wonderful, and it's kind of hard to. I set them in a. I don't think I can rank them, but my wife. That that would be my number one ranking. Also because she's at the door. Yeah. Also she's at the door, so I also have to say that. So.
Good one. Good reason. Good reason to say that. But also, I get it 100%, man. That's why support system's number one for me. My wife, my two kids, my brother, mom, dad, all that. But definitely, three things worth being grateful for, man. Where can people find you if they want to talk to you, if they want to check out Original Geek? Where can they find you, man?
Man, Original Geek is on pretty much any social media platform. We have our website, originalgeekcomics.com. Easy way. This is going to be really hard if I can get you this link to put in your show notes. But our link tree, which is linktr.ee/Original Geek, but original is ORGNL. ORGNL. Original Geek. Link tr.ee, I'm going to spell it twice, /ORGNLGEEK. And hopefully I'll get you the link so you put that in your show notes there. That's our link tree, and then you just go to that and you can get to everything. You can get to all our social media, you can get to our website, you can sign up for our newsletter, join our Discord that I don't post in, but I'm very horrible. I forget that we have that. I'm too old for Discord, okay? I'm too old. I don't have the Riz, as my kids say, or any of that. So I just can't do it. I try, but so you can get on all this stuff. I don't know. The other day I said like 10 things, and I had no idea what I said. But apparently I said like most of them in the correct context, and I didn't know what I was saying. And I was just like, the kids were like, "How do you know that?" And I was like, I don't know. It's just. I hear you talking, and then it's called people watching. It's called people watching. That's what happens when you're a writer, kids. And so, but you can find all our stuff. You can buy our books on Original Geek Comics. You can buy the books that we already stated. Our new book, I'm wearing the shirt if you're watching the video, Whispers in the Dark.
Oh, wow.
It's the new horror book that comes out on Halloween that I wrote. The first ever time I've ever gotten to horror, which I've only gotten into the past couple years. So it was really a big deal for me to write something horror related. I have the PDF that I can send you when we get off.
Do it. Do it, man. Do it.
You would be the first person to read it, so you'll have to do like a little review.
Oh, yeah, I definitely will, man. I'll give you a full review on it, buddy.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be great, because you would be the first person ever to read it. So you're welcome.
Thank you.
So check out our new book. Pre-order that. We got these cool shirts. I love these shirts. I love them. It's one of the covers of the book, which was done by Eric. I'm not in love with Eric, but I mean, man, the boy's good. But, and then Vengeance 4 will be coming out February, March, something of next year, and then got some more stuff in the works, so we'll see. But yeah, stay there. Best thing to do is sign up for our newsletter, so that way you know everything that's coming, and we're just going to keep on trucking. I got audio drama that I'm working on right now, the rip-offs. It's going to be 6-episode comedy drama series. I'm writing the 5th one. Dramedy. Yeah, dramedy. There you go. That's the word. I am writing the 5th episode right now. So we're about to start casting that. I should have, by the end of the month, I should have all 6 episodes written.
Well,
and then
Nick,
Jared. we'll say he's going to. Jared said he's going to start casting once I get done with the scripts. Once I get off my lazy butt and actually write the other two. So.
Hey man, that sounds awesome, man. I'm really excited about listening to that. I'm an audio drama fiend, but man, I'm gonna let you get off of here. Thank you so much once again for jumping on here and talking to me, man. It means a lot.
Yeah, man, no problem. Hopefully we'll come back. I can come back someday, and we'll talk
Oh,
more
yeah.
Whispers and the audio drama and stuff. Probably be out all by then, so we can talk that.
All right, man. That sounds great. Well, you have a great rest of your night.
You too.
Come join the fun.